Erupting stories from the edge where the healing begins.
Right, welcome to another episode of the Old Paratrooper podcast. And today I'm joined with former paratrooper and carping guru, Dave Levy. How you doing, pal? All right?
Great. It's good to see you, Chris.
Yeah, nice to have you on, pal. I know we've been kind of trying to work this out for a few weeks now, but I'm just glad you've made time to come on, and I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, mate. To be fair, I've done about three. I think this is my fourth podcast, but probably the first one that ain't fishing related, and probably the one I've been most nervous about. Because normally, it's like you chat about fishing, it's what you do and what you know, and coming on with you, I've got a lot of respect for what you've done in your life as well, mate. I've watched your podcast and really interesting.
Oh, I really appreciate that, mate. Thank you very much for your kind words. No, as I said to you, previously off air, it's, I'm not, I don't know too much about fishing. I'm quite honest about that, but it is a big kind of market. It's huge, and I didn't know to what extent, because again, it's not something that kind of I'm big into. But yeah, no, it'd be good. We'll get to that point, and we'll touch on it about some of your endeavours in the carping world.
Okay.
But what I like to do with all the podcast is start at the beginning, get a bit of a background about the guests, where they grew up, what they were like as a kid, ultimately what led you down the kind of road into the military and the mighty parachute regiment and beyond. So yeah, over to you, pal.
Well, yeah, I was born in Aldershot. So
Good place.
I was born in Aldershot. I was a what they call a pads brat, and my dad was in two para at the time, so he was serving in two para, and so where did we go from there? Lived in Aldershot till I was about 5 or 6. Then we moved out there. My dad came out of the army at that point, and we moved around quite a lot. Coventry first, then down to London, where my family originally come from, into Barking on the Gascoigne estate, which is want of a better word, a proper shithole.
Fair enough, mate. Nice to you're honest.
Yeah. We lived on the 9th floor of a flat in Barking, and I grew up there till I was a teenager. So quite a rough area, but not too bad either, because you get used to who you hang around with, So I had 3 sisters, all older than me. So it's funny how I didn't turn out wearing dresses. You know what I mean?
That was later on when you got into the paras, right?
Yeah, Maltese fatigue. Yeah.
No, fair play, mate. So yeah, you kind of moved around a bit, and obviously you grew up. Aldershot, as for the viewers and people that will be watching this, is kind of was the home for many, many years. Still, some of the old school consider it that's still the home of British Airborne and the Parachute Regiment. But obviously, growing around in that environment, it seems like it was it always kind of a thing of yours to join the paras, or did that come later?
As a youngster, I was mad on the army, I suppose, because my dad was in it. And I remember when I was about 4, my mum made me a full uniform, even a maroon beret. And my dad took me down to Aldershot to the pub, sat me on the bar light, and obviously his mates that are in the paras are all coming in, going, "Oh look, he's sat on the bar." My dad got home late in the afternoon, pissed, and my mum went, "Where's David?" And he went, "Shit." He ran back, and I was still sat on the bar in Aldershot. But yeah, so basically, yeah, I've probably up until I was about 13, 14, I always wanted to join the army, and then things go off in a different direction.
Yeah.
I was really into my amateur boxing as a kid. Like, me and my dad didn't get on. He was a bit of a narcissist, really. He weren't a very nice person, and used to really proper beat and bully all the kids bar one, weirdly. And as we grew up, I sort of grew up and hated him, you know what I mean? So that actually put me off the army in the end, you know what I mean? And I think I got to a point when I was about 12. I've been by this point to about 8 schools, because we've moved around all over the place. And I think I probably ended up with a bit of a chip on my shoulder for bullying, and that's what led me into the road to go boxing. And I walked myself into a boxing club at 12 years old. You know what I mean? And started boxing, and I thought
That's
I'm
a
going to
tough
make.
thing. That's a tough thing. That walking into boxing clubs at any age, walking into a boxing
Yeah,
club, they're very scary, daunting places for, especially for a 12-year-old, right?
yeah, and do you know what? You're right there, Chris. But they also, once you're in, they're the friendliest places because there's no ego in there. It's sorted out in sparring, you know. So yeah, I started boxing then, and I think that really sort of kept me on the straight and narrow, if you like, you know. And I left. I ended up leaving home at 16 years old. Actually, on my 16th birthday, I left home and moved out. And yeah, sort of went a little bit like people do in their teens. By this point, we'd moved out of London into Essex, and I was growing up in Basildon. And yeah, frequenting the nightclub Raquel's, which you see on the Essex Boys films. Like there was a lot of
Right.
to be fair, this is sort of going into the late 80s, early 90s, into that phase of ecstasy was everywhere. Everywhere you went out, everyone was on ecstasy. But because of the boxing, I'd never done any of it. You know, I just wanted to stay healthy and clean, so it was good. I say the boxing really did keep me on the straight and narrow. But obviously, I got to about what was it? I was about 20. It was quite late for joining the Paras. Really, I was probably about 2021. And I remember I got myself in a bit of trouble over the course of a few months. And all I was doing, I'd fish all summer, work all winter, then take the summer off fishing. And I've done that for about 4 years. But in between all this, I'm still boxing, training, running, and all that. I've always been mad on that. Then I realised my life was going nowhere. You know, I was a bit of a loser, to be honest. And I've gone out this one night and got absolutely smashed with a few mates just drinking. And I was renting a little flat on the side of my mate's house. And I come back and we'd got in a lot of trouble that night. And I sat down on my sofa and I thought, I can't keep going on like this. And I looked, and over the fireplace, you know, you get them, they're like brass bridles that go on the saddles for horses.
Yeah.
This old woman had lived there before me, and I'd just left these brass things up. But one of them was a parachute regiment emblem, and like so in it was the Paras badge. And I was thought, I'm gonna get up in the morning and go and join the Paras. And that was as much thought as I had sort of given it. Other than I knew my life was just going nowhere, you know. So I basically got up in the morning, went to a Southend Army Careers office, and I actually failed the entrance exam the first time because
That's an impressive achievement in itself for the
it,
Paras.
yeah, I know, yeah. Like I just was like, I was literally that fucking. I just bunked school so much, like growing up. I mean, at one point, my mum went to a parents' evening and said, "Oh, how's David getting on?" And they said, "We'd like to know. We ain't seen him in 3 months." Because all I would do is go off fishing, you know. Like I'm not saying this is the thing to do, but back then it weren't like now. Your kid misses school now; they phone you within an hour, didn't they? And
Yeah, of course they do.
yeah,
But you know the whole thing with the school thing, and it's a big bore. I make no secret of the fact that I didn't hate school, but I struggled with learning. I left school
yeah,
with no GCSEs. I found the whole learning process. Sat in a classroom, you know, 90%, 80, 90% of the kids get it. You sit there, you watch them scribbling it down, hands up. And I look around frustrated as a kid. And I'm like that now with anything that's classroom based. There are a lot of people very, very similar to me and you, Dave, that
yeah,
kind of don't learn the kind of way that the masses do. But back then, you're kind of seen as almost a bit of a failure or a dunce or you're the
yeah,
thicko,
exactly.
for want of a better word, when really you kind of have different skills that aren't nurtured. And it's not until you leave, you join the military, you kind of get into fishing, whatever it is you kind of do, but there is a path out there and a skill that you'll be good at, you know. And I kind of
100%.
I preach this a lot. And obviously with yourself, you kind of struggled at school and then you kind of went
Yeah.
for the Paras. Now the
Do you
barb
know?
test is not to be sniffed at, is it?
No, no. Do you know what? I went and done it, and I didn't know. I went in a bit blind. I walked into this Army Careers office, and there was a guy in there, and he was in the Grenadier Guards, and he said to me, "Yeah, like 'cause they always try and get you in their regiment, didn't you? Don't
Same,
they?" And
yeah, yeah, that was what happened with me, yeah.
yeah, so I've gone in. I've said, "No, no, I can't go now. I have to join the Paras." Like, and he was like, I'm going to tell you now." He said, "We've probably had 20 or 30 lads through this careers office. Not one of them's got in." And I was like, I'm thinking, I knew about P Company and everything. I grew up with the parachute regiment, like
Yeah.
listening to it, like and being told you'd never get in there. You're not good enough. You know what I mean? So with that in the back of my head, I thought, if I'm going to go in anything, it's that, and I'm going to try my hardest. You know, so I've come away with my tail between my legs. Such a div. I can't even pass the test. You know. Then I've gone home and I thought about it, and I thought, right, next time I go in, I'm going to take a bit of paper in my pocket and I'm going to write the numbers 1 to like 24, and I've just basically cheated. So I've gone back, right? They've shut the door and I've cheated and got through the exam. Anyway, they've said like, oh, the next intake, I've done that pre-para selection. I don't know if you
Pratt.
had
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Pratt. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've gone down to Lichfield,
Yep.
and this is a couple of weeks later. Done pre-para selection, and being a boxer, I found that quite easy because it's basically just a run and a bit of gym stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, that was great. They said, yeah, you're in. They said the next intake's 3 months. So I just wanted to get out of Basildon. Really, things just were shit there, like, and I went home. I'd been at home a couple of days, and I was just about to do my driving test, say on the Wednesday, and I got a call from the Army Careers Office, and they said, if you can get there this week, you can go the intake now because a few people ain't coming. So literally out of the blue, I just packed my stuff, said goodbye to my mates, and went, and that was it. I went up to Lichfield, and yeah, I remember I got off at the train station, and the coach picked us up. And when we got off, we lined up. You know, and you have to shout your number. And I was the end guy, and there was 109 of us.
Oh
So
no.
it was a big platoon. Do you know what, Chris? I looked up and down this line of guys, and I thought I was, a reasonably tough lad, like, and I shit myself. I thought I've bit off more than I can chew here. Like some of these lads look really hard, like, and yeah, and the corporals were walking up and down, and they just looked massive. You know what I mean? I just thought, it's,
Scary.
your brain will play tricks on you. I thought, fucking hell, like, what have I done? Like, anyway, we got in our rooms, and I remember there was one particular corporal, and when we'd done the pre-para selection, he was like our best mate. When we got off, I went, "Hello, mate."
Bet that didn't end well.
He punched me straight in the guts, and he said, "I ain't your fucking mate." Yeah, and we had a few guys that were staff when I was there that were like quite well known within the parachute regiment, ex-Falklands and things like that, and yeah, they definitely didn't suffer falls. And over the course of I think you've done 3 months at Lichfield, then they moved you 3 months to Catterick. I know it's all up there now, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I did the 3 months at Lichfield, and for the first bit, it was, I found it all quite not easy. I'd had such a harsh upbringing from my father that the shouting didn't really bother, like, because they're just breaking people all the time, aren't they?
Yeah.
Even the inspections, I remember them chucking the mattresses. We was on the 3rd floor at Lichfield, and there was a lot of the guys were Scottish or Northerners, but it was a few Southerners, and they put us in the room together. And there was a lad opposite me, Paul, and he was quite young, 17. And when we'd failed his inspections at 1 o'clock in the morning, he'd be crying, like, and I'd say to him, Paul, look, you've got to just maintain a sense of humour with the whole thing. Like, he said, they don't even want a beer at 1 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean? So
The
I
game.
said, just laugh. So they've done another inspection at about 3. Paul's laughed, so they threw his mattress and all his kit out the window. It's like,
Laugh inside. Laugh inside.
yeah, yeah. Funny enough, because the first time I got sent to the Provo was for laughing. We was on the square at Lichfield, and we're being inspected, and this guy's coming along. They've got someone from the guards. I think it was the Coldstream Guards there, and they would do all our drill, and they would help them with the fitness. It was a bit like they would help each other with what they was best at.
Yeah.
And this Coldstream Guard's come along, and he's staring. His face is like 6 inches off me, looking me up and down. And I looked over his shoulder, and one of the staff is standing there with a big smile on his face. Like, and I don't know why, I started smiling. And this Coldstream Guard said to me, "Are you fucking smiling at me?" And that was it. You just go. I burst out laughing. So he's like, "Get him off the square." They sent me down to the jail. and the provo absolutely beasted me with a shell. So I weren't laughing for long, mate. But
No, not when you get shelled. So what year was this, Dave? 90.
94, I think. Yeah,
So you,
94.
yeah,
Yeah,
you were 3 years before me. I were 97.
I was 594 platoon.
Okay, so yeah, I was
Yeah,
630 platoon. So
yeah,
we're
yeah,
a few platoons before. So yeah, basic training, Lichfield, phase 2 in Catterick, and I was a
yeah,
little bit the same as you. I always found the fitness hard because I'm a big lad. I was a big lad back then. I was about
yeah,
85 kilos at 17, so I found the running kind of hard. But because my dad was quite a strict like dad,
yeah,
old school. He grounded you and gave you. I had a belt I got the belt several times
yeah,
as a
yeah,
kid, stuff like that. But discipline, keeping things tidy. I already knew how to iron. I knew how to wash clothes. So that side of the admin and stuff, I
yeah,
found quite easy. Where there were lads there that never picked up an iron. They were like looking at an iron, like
yeah,
they'd
yeah.
never used one.
I
So if
know in
you've got
our
them fundamental skills in
yeah,
place, it
100%.
makes your life easier, doesn't it?
Oh, I remember in our room there was one lad. He was good at pulling boots, so I'd do all his ironing. Because I'd grown up having to iron. You just get in and you dig in with each other, didn't you?
Of
But
course you
yeah,
do. Of course you do.
I bet you was pro. I bet you took naturally to tabbing though, being a big lad.
I was all right at it, and again, I did suffer quite a few injuries through depot, and I'm quite open about the fact I never used to be open about it, but I did P company 3 times in
Right? Yeah.
6 months
Bloody.
because of injuries and stuff like that. No real excuses. I completed 3 P companies. I just had injuries. I think when I did actually finally pass P company, that was the only time I think throughout depot I didn't have an injury
Yeah.
that I wasn't keeping secret. But no, look, depot's hard. I was 17 when I came through, and I've had quite a lot of chats with people about depot. If you're a little bit older in your 20s, 21, I'm not saying it's easier, but your body's a bit more developed.
Yeah, your body's
You know,
developed and you've had a little bit more life experience, with employers and things like that. So you've just seen a little bit more, even though it's a fast learning curve part of life, isn't it? Between 15 and sort of 20. And I noticed a lot of the lads that failed with us were the younger lads or through injury. And there was a lot of lads that were super fit, but they just were so injury prone and that could, knees, ankles and things like that. But funny enough, talking about tabbing, I was a really good runner. I could run a BFT in seven minutes and under sometimes. But when it came to tabbing, I remember there was a guy, Sergeant Bush, his name was, and he said to me, he was laughing. He went, "You might be a runner." He went, "Let's see how you get on with this on your back." And I think the first tab's ridiculous. You carry like 8 pound or something. I was all over the place. Machines were on fire. I was like, "What the hell is this?" But basically, we went up to Catterick, and then you do the beat up for P Company, and yeah, I was really lucky to be honest, because I never got an injury. The 2 days before P Company, we had an inspection, and we had to wear all our best boots and all that, and we failed. And they had this new officer, and the staff were all going mad. And I'd put on my best boots, and this corporal went to me, soon as the inspection's done, go and get your tabbing boots on. So I walked off to get him on. He went, "Where are you fucking going? Get there." So we've gone on this tab, and I lost both my big toenails.
oh,
So literally, these new boots smashed my foot, and we're going on P Company in 2 days. You know what I mean? So I basically did the whole of P Company with half a toenail on one foot and none on the other. And I wrapped that, the white tape they'd give you
yeah.
round it. And every night I'd be soaking it off to get it off and put some new stuff on. But
I think
got
by the
through.
time everyone gets to P company, you're carrying some certainly blisters
Yeah,
and stuff like that. I get in a lot of trouble not a lot of trouble. I get a lot of criticism on podcasts for not explaining the abbreviation. So for the benefit of the viewers, a tab is a tactical advance to battle, where it's where you put 30, 40, 50, 60 pound, whatever you've got on your back, and you kind of march on the uphills, kind of shuffle on the kind of flat and on the
yeah,
downhills, don't you? Like the airborne shuffle. That's kind of a
yeah,
and for the paras, our benchmark's 10 miles, 1 hour 50 over undulating ground with about £40 helmet and rifle and water and stuff like that. So just for the benefit of the viewers, because I do get
Yeah.
a lot of people go, "Oh God, all the abbreviations," and like we
Yeah.
know them like the back of a hand, but for them. So yeah, sorry about that, Dave. Yeah. So
No,
yeah,
it's
P
good.
company, complete a P company with half your feet hanging off. And then yeah, how did you find P company? All right.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Like I think by the end of the week, your body's in bits, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I can't remember what the last thing is. Is it the 18 miler in Walcott? Um, or is it stretcher race? But I just,
Stretcher race, I think. Oh, it
yeah,
used to be. It's all changed now.
yeah, and I just remember just wanting it over, and I didn't sort of come. I think now they can come off 2 events, but then you couldn't come off nothing. If you come off one thing, you was off P company. And
Yeah.
I think we passed out from the original 109. There was 32 on my parade ground, and 10 of them were from where guys had injuries and joined us.
Back
So
squatters. Yeah.
probably we only had 20 odd out of the 109 pass, so it was quite a low rate. But they did hammer us. I had a guy, a corporal. His name was Gaz Winters in the second
I know
phase.
Gaz. Gaz was in
Yeah,
two
yeah.
para at the same time as I
That's
was.
it. Yeah, what a lovely fella. Like, literally, I think I was lucky to get him because some of the other corporals there, one of them was an absolute tosser, and the others were like, I know you think some things are just, you need to calm the fuck down, mate. You know what I mean? But Gaz was just fair. And like all the time, fair. If you fucked up, you'd get it. If you didn't, you wouldn't get it. But I remember one night driving out into the middle of nowhere, and it's a saying in my house now, right? Um, Gaz got us off this truck, and we're all standing there, and there was actually a no. It was like some sort of power station, and we're all thinking they're taking us in there. This looks interesting. We all had £40 in Bergens, and this 4-ton truck's just disappeared into the night, and we all stood there. And he turned around, looked at us, and he went, "Right, lads, I want to see some fucking grit and determination." And then he marched us 10 miles at speed right back to where we'd come from, like, because he just wanted us to be that little bit better than the other, platoons that were there. But yeah, what a real nice guy. And, he wanted you to pass. He wanted you to get in there, where some of them now, I just don't think they wanted you even there. But,
Yeah, it's good, and you did get some depot screws. I remember mine kind of fondly, and some were a little bit. You're in a position of power. I get it, and some come across as a bit bullying, but there were
yeah,
some that were fair, and I had some good tool screws as well. Like you say, firm but
yeah,
fair. They wanted to get the best out of you. At the time, you couldn't see it. You couldn't see why they were doing it, but
no,
looking
exactly.
back
Yeah,
in hindsight and wisdom and
yeah.
experience, you can now see, can't you? So, Pats P Company, first time on the square, got your berry. You get a long weekend, didn't you? Did you still get the long weekend then? You got to
I
go home
believe
for the.
so. My memory's
Yeah,
not that good now, Chris. Been it too
yeah.
much.
You've been punched. Yeah, that's the same as me, mate. I've had far too many rounds sparring and boxing fights, so I know where you're coming from. So yeah, you get that weekend, and then you'd have done Advanced Wales, as it was known then, wouldn't you? Advanced
That's right.
Wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I can
I
remember.
did obviously the same thing, but it was called Dynamite Mole when I come through. I think the names over the years have changed, but
Okay, yeah.
the fundamentals are the same. You get a patch of ground in a shithole training area somewhere in the country. You dig a trench to the height of the tallest man, and it goes
That's
on
one.
for about 5 or 6 days. And then you do some live firing attacks and get bugged out. It's pretty horrendous. And I always say I thought that was harder than P Company, in my personal
Yeah,
opinion.
I will agree. I've done some exercises. Actually, once I was in Free Parrot, and I thought, fuck, that was harder than fucking P Company. You think that it's all over when you finish P Company, but it's not. It's just the beginning. But yeah, it's still. I actually enjoyed the whole thing. I enjoyed P Company because I really enjoy, the kind of fitness where it goes beyond fitness, and now you've got to see what you're made of mentally.
Yeah.
Is yeah, I love that kind of fitness. And you almost get a little bit of energy every time someone jacks, don't you? And you think, I'm still fucking going, like, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's just fucking hard, and that's all there is to it, and it bloody well should be, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Definitely, it is one of them things. It's a test. It's designed to be one of the hardest tests, if not the hardest test in the kind of British Army outside of Special Forces.
yeah,
So it's designed that way to test people. They don't want people that and I've always said it before. A lot of the events, they go beyond fitness, and I remember it quite rightly.
Yeah,
So if you came off the log, if you got in the jack wagon, if you came off the stretcher, that were you pretty much, you might as well not carry on P Company because
yeah,
you were failing. I don't know how that stands now. I think you do, like you say. I think you accumulate points. Look, I wouldn't know. I've been
yeah,
out 20 odd years now, so I don't know how it is, but that's how I remember it. Probably the same as
yeah,
you. There's only a few years difference between it. So yeah, after Advanced Wales, gone to Bryce, done your jumps, Slipper City, Lobster
yeah,
Speed, nice
yeah.
Spotlight nightclub. Um,
I remember going to Bryce Norton and walking into the cookhouse and saying to someone, "Where's the private's cookhouse?" No, this is it. I thought I was in the officers' mess. I was like,
yeah,
"What?" All the food and everything. It's beautiful. I thought I knew I should have joined the RAF.
I know. I literally talk to my lad now, and I'm like, look, he's shown an interest in the military, and I've said, go in the RAF. Trust
Yeah,
me, go for the RAF. There's no point being on Salisbury Plain in February, digging in and doing sort of exercise when you could be in a, probably in a hotel now in the
yeah,
RAF. So,
yeah,
um,
exactly.
no, Bryce Norton's renowned for being Slipper City, isn't it? And I think it's a good bit of a shock to the system to have it that cushy at the end. But
Yeah,
look, I think you've earned
it's a
it by
nice
then.
wind down. You know what I mean? It's a nice wind down before you get to battalion and
Yeah.
realise that you're just a crow again. Like,
Oh, nothing like bringing you down a peg or two, is it? You kind of
no,
you're on a high from getting your wings. You got your parasmock, little things like that. Getting issued your parasmock, you're really chuffed with it. You're wearing
yeah,
your berry, and then you rock up 2 para, 3 para, 1 para. Where did you go, Dave? What?
free
Sorry,
power,
you went to three
Aldershot.
para.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know a lad called Ian Edmonds.
Do you know what? That name does ring a bell, but like I wouldn't
Everyone
say.
used to call him Eddie, so you probably
Yeah,
know him.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I work with him in the fire service now. That's all.
Oh, right.
And he's ex-Free Para. I know a few lads from Free Para. Anyway, I digress. So yeah, got Free Para, gone to Free Para, rocked up at Aldershot. Was it Aldershot that you went to?
Yeah, yeah. Started off at Aldershot, and we was there for the first year, and then we went into that AMF role, which is the Arctic Warfare. So
Yeah,
they moved us to Dover, and then I spent another 2 years in Dover. But yeah, Aldershot, I loved it. You know what I mean? It was almost like, even though I hadn't lived there most of my life, it was like going home. I
yeah,
just really loved the shot. It was good on a night out, and there was plenty of fishing around there as well. Because I've been fishing all my life. I started fishing when I was a kid, and I'm really keen all the time, right the way through all my teens. And probably the longest point I hadn't fished in is when I joined the army. Like, so when we got based in Aldershot, I was well chuffed, like, because there's a lot of quite famous lakes around there with big carp in, and I could sort of be in the army at work, if you like, and not far as well from fishing for decent sized fish.
yeah. I know. Fair play, pal. That's like I say, Aldershot's. It's like a bit of for me. I was there probably about 18 months before we kind of moved to Colchester in the late '90s, early
Yeah,
2000s. So I spent probably most of my time in the military at Aldershot. So I don't hold Aldershot with the same affection as the
yeah, yeah,
the soldiers before me, because that's where they spent a lot of their career. But no,
yeah,
I still liked Aldershot, and like I say, ideal for you if you've got fishing lakes in the surrounding areas.
yeah, yeah. It's
So you've been fishing then your whole sort of literally. What age did you kind
yeah.
of
I started
again?
when I was about.
Go on,
Sorry,
sorry,
mate.
go on.
I started when I was about 7.
Right,
Yeah,
7 years of age. That's young,
yeah.
isn't it, to start
And
fishing?
again, like no one, my mum said to me, I don't know why, just I said, I want to start fishing, asked for a fishing rod, and got a rod and just literally caught nothing for about the first 2 years because no one in my family fished. And then eventually I just started to learn a bit, and I only actually learned to read through wanting to read fishing magazines. So no, it's
Wow.
like go to school and they'd go, okay, I ain't reading that. So eventually, my mum started buying me fishing magazines, and I'd read them, and yeah, I picked it up through that. But saying again about education, when I got in the army, they did give me adult education, which was good. You know what I mean? So put me through some basic education, and I carried that on right the way through till when I left the army. I did more education because, like you said earlier, Chris, if you use something you're interested in, it's easy to educate yourself.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and again, that's what we kind of talk about. And for certain people, there's a lot of people that join the reg, and I talk about ADHD quite a lot because I'm pretty much I have it. Um,
Yeah,
and you become hyper focused and stuff. If it's a topic that you're not into, and I mean, you don't necessarily have to have ADHD to have this, but I find a lot of paratroopers or soldiers in general have the same sort of thing. Whereas they're literally, if they not interested in it, they won't learn it. So the whole
yeah,
school thing, you sit there, you're being told it's in this ear and out the other. But if
yeah,
you've got a topic, obviously for you, for fishing, fascinated with it. For me, it was boxing and
yeah,
various other bits and bobs and outlets. If I have an interest in that, and now my fixation right now has become the podcast, as you can
yeah,
probably see and tell. So I just think there's not enough still done to kind of nurture these kind of things, because there might be people that are rubbish at school, but they've not been picked out. So they might be a really good mechanic. They might
yeah,
be able to do electrics just like that because they can see it. So yeah,
exactly.
I think that's a big thing, and I try and get that in there wherever I can, because I'm hoping at some point that will change and they'll start picking up on people's strengths rather than
Yeah.
tarring them with the brush that you're not very good at school, so we'll just kind of
Yeah, I
blah
think
blah blah.
I know my daughter's school when she was at school, they were a lot better with it, and getting more teachers in and concentrating on kids and getting them different ways of educating instead of the 32 kids stuck in front of one teacher writing something on a blackboard like when we was at school, copy that while I sit here and read my book like. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think school's changed a lot for the better, but hopefully it'll just keep getting better, eh?
Yeah, hopefully, mate. Hopefully. Um, so obviously got to Free Para, done the Arctic roll and stuff like that. I never got to do the Arctic roll. But how long did you serve in total, Dave?
3 years I did, mate. Because fun enough, when I joined, I was like, a lot of the lads in the room were going, "I'm doing 20 years." And I said, "I'm doing 3 years," and I wanted to go there. I just wanted the life experience of the army, but I was going to do it. I had to do the parachute regiment because I'd have never lived it down. Because I also had two guys that I both call uncle that weren't uncles. They were my dad's friends, and they were both ex-parachute regiment. I never lived it down if I'd gone in any other regiment. So
Yeah.
they'd given me too much stick. But funny enough, I think I was telling you, I got into free para, and the very first live firing exercise I went on, they took us live firing, and they said like, this is a necessity to do this. Every now and then there's an accident, and I was actually there when we shot the Padre. I don't know if you ever heard about it,
I
but
didn't know, no.
yeah. So we were still in the old shot at the time. So we've gone on this exercise. We've parachuted in, and the idea was that we was using 94s, which is like a tank weapon for people that are listening. And you extend it, put it over your shoulder, fire off a 9mm, couple of spotting rounds, and then put the main armament round out. So he was doing it with what's the word I'd use? The mock ones, which you can reload because they take a magazine. Because in real life, you throw it away.
Yeah.
And we've done a foreign pairs fire manoeuvre down this little valley. Pulled out the 94. It's not gone off. So I was like, that's strange. And I went, yeah, just put it down and go back up. So we've gone back up. Everyone's standing around having a cup of tea, and the Padre's walking around chatting with everyone like. And he come up to me and he said, "Oh, Private Levy," he said, "Do you believe in God?" And I said, "Well, I think I must do, sir." And he went, "Why is that?" And I said, "Because every time I jump out of an aeroplane, my parachute opens. I say, thank fucking God for that." So we're chatting away. All of a sudden, there's a bang, and this corporal had come up off the range, and he's looking at this 94, scratching head, and he's thinking, "Why didn't it go off?" And by this time, they had a safety pin, didn't they?
Yeah.
So he's pulled the safety pin out the 94. Working parts have gone forward. 9mm spotting round, armour piercing, straight through both of the Padres' ankles. And I remember it hit a
Oh.
tree and it was spinning green. It was just spinning. And we was talking. He's only 3, 4 foot in front of me. And he went, "I've been shot. I've been shot." Bear in mind, I've never seen anyone shot. I'm shitting myself thinking I should have stayed on Civvy Street. And, he falls over, and to be fair, the guys that had been in what they were on it, you know what I mean? They said, get a boot off. He took his boots off, and the helicopter come in, and we put a drip in him. And I thought, this guy's dying in front of us. Like, his nose went blue, his ears went blue. And he could see this guy, right? He had some balls. He could see that we were panicking, the young lads, you know, because we'd never seen this sort of thing before. And he started telling jokes. So he was laying there, and he knew it was touch and go. And he starts telling us jokes, going, "I'll be right. Don't you worry about it." And I've never forgot that. You know what I mean? For fucking hell, like. But they got him on a stretcher, and I saw him. It was months and months later in Aldershot, still on crutches, and he come up to me, and I said to him, "I've got to ask you something, sir," because they're officers, aren't they, the padres? And
Yeah.
he said, "What's that?" I said, "So you go to church all the time, you pray to God," and then he said, "Yeah," and I said, "None of us did." I said, "The gun goes off, one person gets it, and it's you." I said, "How's that work?" And he said, "Well, I become a padre to protect you lads, and that day I protected you." And I said, "Well, that's faith, and good luck to you." So
Well, fair play to him. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, a bit of a mad one.
Shot through the ankles. Yeah. Now, am I? And this isn't to call you out at all with the law, but I'm just trying to wrap my brains. Was it a 9mm spotting round, or was it 5.56?
I
I
thought it
think.
was not. What went through his ankles was a 9mm, I think. Because I
Right.
think, do you
Okay.
know when I might be wrong here, Chris, it was a long time ago. You know when they have the with, for want of a better word, fake weapon that ain't the actual main law, because these are practice ones, so they can
Right.
reload them. Yeah, they can
I get you.
reload them with
Yes.
magazines.
That
So
might
they
be right,
used,
then that's where I'm getting confused.
yeah.
Yeah, the
So I
fake
think,
ones might have been. Yeah. Well, if anyone's
yeah,
watching, and it's a good question to ask, what did they take? Did they take 9mm? I know the actual Law 94 itself, the disposal one took 5.56. To have five spotting rounds, and then you switch to the heat round,
yeah,
didn't you? But I
that's
don't
right.
know. I can't remember them kind of dummy ones. Whether they probably did. You're probably right. But if
Yeah,
anyone's
yeah.
watching this that's in the know, put a comment in when I put this podcast out.
Okay, yeah, yeah. I can't remember now, mate.
But yeah. So where was that then? What's
That was on.
exercise area?
Believe it was. Might have been Salisbury Plains because we jumped in. Yeah, I think it was Salisbury Plains, but I might be wrong, Chris. Someone might know, be watching this who was there. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
that I think,
there's plenty of shitholes around the world, around the country that we got put on in February
yeah,
or January or something.
yeah. I still maintain that Wales is probably the worst place you can go and exercise. It's just hell on
Oh,
earth, isn't it?
it is
In the winter.
that Otterburn, Salisbury Plain, and you know what? Funny story. We actually, when you're kind of doing a company or a sort of battalion attacks, and you kind of all move forward. When you're firing onto a target, give covering fire onto a target, you switch fire, don't you, before the kind of
That's
team
it. Yeah,
go up
yeah,
and assault the bunker. And I remember our colour sergeant Ben Huxley. I'm sure he won't mind us saying this. He was one of the safety staff. As we switch fire, it was into a bit of a rocky area, and he got shot. We shot him with a ricochet off the
yeah,
rocks that went through the back of his kneecap. It didn't go all the way through, embedded in it because it was a ricochet. But yeah, I
yeah,
remember everyone shouting, "Stop! Put your
yeah, yeah.
weapons down." So everyone put the weapons down. They were just like, "Oh, I'll just slightly move them in a different."
Yeah,
When they get
definitely
investigated.
wasn't me. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely wasn't me. So, but yeah, I know where you come. But look, we train. The Paris train realistic. You do a lot of close firing. Accidents
yeah,
are bound to happen because of the
yeah,
realism of the training, right?
yeah. More lives are probably saved through that than not doing it. So
Absolutely, mate.
yeah,
Absolutely. Um, so yeah, you've kind of done a few exercises inside in
yeah,
Power Reg and everything else. Now, did you say I'll bring it up here because something you told me, and I just want to make sure. Did you say so? You broke your back parachuting, is that right?
yeah. I did. Yeah, we went to France to do it. By this time, I think we were still in Aldershot, so it's still in my first year. It was 1995, June the 20th. It was. I'll never forget the day. Because the fishing season used to start on the 16th of June, and I thought, shit, I'm going to miss it. So we was on the way to France, and we was going out there to do some sort of thing where we joined the French paras and all that, and you're all jumping. There was 15 Hercs in a row, and we was dropping ambulances, Land Rovers, everything on parachutes. It was a massive exercise. And yeah, anyway, we're doing this exercise, and as I've come out the plane, I don't know quite what happened because it's all just a blur, like. But like you go out on a Sim 45 about half a second apart.
Yeah.
What I suspect happened is that we went out at the same time. So I've come under, yeah, we've clashed, and the lad I clashed with pulled his reserve almost immediately, and it basically collapsed our chutes. So now we're hurtling towards, and I actually do remember all the flapping clothes and thinking, I need to get the container off, which is the kit that straps on the front here. And the container for that jump, I remember I got told to take some kit out because they were weighing it and the container was too heavy. So it was over £100 of kit in there. And I'm trying to get the one clip to come off. You know, normally you touch them, they just fall away. I cannot get this clip off. I'm going like that. Next thing, it's just like bang, just black. And I've woke up and I'm sitting there with my container on my lap, just in the middle of this field. There's a couple of guys screaming over here. And I managed, as I got to the clip, I literally touched it with one finger, Chris. It just rolled off me. And I've jumped up and I could feel a lot of warm coming down. I'd split my head open. Everything, basically, I took the whole impact on the container on my left side. So I basically broke my left shoulder, injured my left knee, and snapped my coccyx up the other way, which is
Oh,
the bone at the bottom of your back, like. But at this time, I don't know that. I've just jumped up because your adrenaline's going, like.
yeah.
And these medics come over, and I remember one of them after it said to me, "When you hit the floor, a mushroom cloud come up." So he went boom, like that. But the guy next to me hit a bit. This field was grass with big lumps of slate, and he landed on the slate. So he was fucking unlucky, like. But I've got up, and they've said you've got to sit down. I remember sitting on my kit. Next thing, I've got the medics round on me, like, and I've been taken over to a helicopter on a stretcher. Put in a helicopter. At this point, I don't know I've broken my back. I just think I feel a bit fucked up, you know. And I remember going, I've got to get batteries to C company or things like that, like. Anyway, they've took me to the hospital, gone into hospital. It was about 4 or 5 lads that had piled in on that jump, like a couple of lads had broke their legs quite badly. A lot of shit went wrong. They chucked an ambulance and a Land Rover out and forgot to clip them up, the RAF. So the ambulance,
Yeah.
that was a low level jump, and they let us come in at 400 feet because we was in France. So we was at the ground fucking quick, you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, I've gone to hospital and I'm laying in bed in the hospital, and they said, "Oh, we've got to take you down and do all these scans on you," and they're giving me a load of painkillers. And that night, I've gone and had all my scans, come back and have said, you've got to stay where you are. You've got to keep your pelvis pointing upright because we might have to operate. This time, they're talking about taking my coccyx off. And I'm laying in the bed, and it's quite a funny story. This Irish guy walks in because we're in a Foreign Legion hospital. The guy next to me, he had broke both his legs abseiling. He was a French guy, and he could speak sort of broken English. And this Irish guy walks in, and he said, "Oh, are you the paratrooper?" And sorry, you're still there, mate?
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, this Irish guy walks in. He said, "Oh, are you the paratrooper?" And I've said, "Yeah, like I am." Like, and he said, "Oh, do you remember Warren Point?" And he starts quoting all these IRA things, and
Oh,
he said, "Yeah, my dad's." And bear in mind, I'm laid there, can't fucking move. And I've got this guy, and he said, "You better sleep with one eye open tonight, mate." And I said, "Oh, fuck off!" Like, and he walked out. And the Irish guy said to me, the French guy next to me went, "What's he saying? What's he saying?" I said, "Well, yeah, I think he fancies me because he's coming back tonight." I never did see him again, you know. Like
you
he's
won't do. You won't do. All
no,
mouth.
yeah, almost he was sounding off. But I remember laying there that night thinking, like you get the glass jugs, lining it up, waiting there, thinking when he comes through, that's going over. Like,
He's having it.
yeah, I never saw him again, mate. You know, so
No, no.
yeah,
Oh,
flew
God.
back to. I think I was there for about a week and a half, and then they flew me and some others back to England, and they took us to this airport. And this ambulance and Land Rover were there, and they looked like they'd been put in a crusher, you know, where they'd hit the floor.
No way.
Yeah, yeah. And then went back to England, and had loads of physio. Luckily, the coccyx started making its way back round. I still get a load of hassle with it, but one of the things that I've got to do is keep fit, and that's what I was told. Like, if you let yourself get overweight and things like that, you will start to feel bad back, which I do sometimes. It gives me ag, but funnily enough, that was my 13th jump, and I went on to jump a load more times. So yeah, it weren't all bad. When you're young, your
No,
body gets over a lot, doesn't it?
it does, and you know, God, I can't remember. I think I did something like 20 odd jumps in the time I was in. I was in quite a busy period. I got 6 operational tours in 7 years, so it was
Bloody
quite
hell.
a busy time. But it, you know, there was always a lot of injuries whenever they jump. And I remember we jumped on a battalion exercise, a brigade exercise, and
Yeah,
the wind speed was ridiculous, and there was multiple casualties. Um, and you know, it's part and parcel of the job, and thankfully it never happened to me, and obviously it's, you know, hats off to you, because you
yeah,
know, then it's not good when you've done something like that. Military jumping's horrible anyway, isn't it? You know,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
people people that will watch this will go, well, free fall parachuting's, yeah, free fall parachuting's in, you know, are good. I've done some free fall, but
yeah,
when you do military jumping with that weight clipped to you and the horridness of low level flying and jumping out
yeah.
the side door of a Herc, you know, or whatever, at 150, 130 mile an hour, it's not pleasant.
No.
So yeah, no, fair play to you for actually jumping again after quite, a
Yeah,
serious
yeah.
injury.
Well,
So
funny enough, Chris, when I had about 4 months of this remedial PT, and they took us to an airport. You know, you've seen them sky vans that basically look like a transit van with wings on.
yeah,
They got one of them. They said, "Oh, you're going to jump today." And I remember I was quite nervous because I thought last time I jumped, I had this accident, and there was a few other lads jumping who were on remedial jump. Anyway, they jumped us. Don't quote me, minimum 4 times that day. So it was gone, you know what I mean? All your fears were gone. They just took you up, you jumped, you come back, picked up another parachute, took you up, you jumped. And yeah, we jumped a minimum of 4 times that day out of one of the sky vans. And yeah, it was great. It's good to get some numbers in.
yeah, no, absolutely. Well, you're going to call me a crowbag now, but I didn't do the balloon. The balloon had gone by the time I joined. So my actual first jump was the Skyvan. So then now they don't have the Skyvan. You do your jump straight out of a Herc, but you used to do one jump out of a Skyvan, and then 7
Well,
jumps out of
funny
Herc,
enough, Chris,
including one night jump.
I was the last person to jump out of a balloon. Was a South African lad, and his second name was Bradley, and it was on our jumps course. So they
All
had the
right.
balloon up, and it was up there, and I remember sitting here thinking, "Fucking hell, I'd rather jump out of an aeroplane." You know, and it goes up on this wire, and they sent these 2 lads out. Bradley jumped out and landed. Then all of a sudden, 2 of the wires on the sides of the balloon went twang twang. They quickly reeled it back down to the floor and said, "No, that's it. That was our last balloon." So it basically the wires had pinged off it, and they said that'll be the last balloon now. And the next day we jumped out of Herc.
Ah, okay. So
Yeah.
did you actually get to jump the balloon then?
No, I didn't. No, one guy in our platoon did, and they say it's South African lad, by name of second name of Bradley.
Right. Okay. So that was have been the year that they kind of changed it then
Yeah,
in
they said I
'94.
don't think they ever. That was the last time anyone I knew of jumped out of a balloon. They just got rid of it.
Ah, gosh, yeah. Well, there you go. I didn't know that. Um, so yeah, you've kind of gone through your career and you've made a decision to kind of, obviously you've rehabbed yourself, you've gone on and done stuff, and then you've
Yeah,
come up with the decision that you're going to leave the kind of the paras, right? Was this
yeah.
was this, what was your thoughts in leaving? Because you said you was only going to do 3 years. You seem to have stick by that. Was there anything that swayed you to want to stay, or was you going to leave
Yeah.
and
Do you
carry on,
know what?
crack on with fishing?
The maddest thing is, near the end, I was thinking, oh, I'm doing the right thing, but I wanted to get out and just pursue life, really. You know what I mean? I just wanted to do that period. I look at it like I went to university, you know, and it was a good university to go to. And yeah, I got out just as the whole battalion went off to Ireland, and they were looking after the Maze prison. So
Yeah.
the day I left, no one was there. It was weird. The last week, I'd done a bit of guard duty, and I just walked out the gates. Everyone was away, you know. And yeah, I moved back to Basildon, and yeah, just sort of I had this plan in my head when I went for my final interview. What was his name? The RSM Fielding, nice guy. Like I went in for the interview, and I said, like, he said, "Why are you getting out of the parachute regiment?" And I said, "Oh, I just want to pursue other things in my life, like fishing." And he said, you can't make money out of that though, can you? I said, well, you can, but it'll just take time. And he said, like, well, good luck with that. You know what I mean? And I left the army later, I think a couple of weeks later. And when I originally left the army, I sort of got back into my fishing heavily, moved back to Basildon, started fishing like very well known lakes and catching some good fish. And like I said to you earlier, Chris, I was putting myself through education. You know what I mean? Like educating myself. I started writing articles for magazines. By this point, I was sort of getting noticed in the fishing world, you know. So I started writing articles, and I probably wrote articles for about 2, maybe 3 years on
Well,
different subjects of fishing, different types, ways of catching carp, before someone started giving me, said that we want you to come and use our gear, and started giving me gear. And then eventually they said, you can only be given so much gear before you've got to be getting money. You know what I mean? Because they want you to keep advertising. So I started getting paid by a company, and at this time I'm working in security, just at Lakeside Shopping Centre. I was training to be a store detective. And funny story, the guy that when I went for the interview, the guy was an ex-Royal Marine. And also I speak to quite a lot of paras still because I've got some sort of attachment through the carp teams that are now in the army, and just gone blank there. Yeah, oh yes, so I've got this job, and I say to the guys when I talk to them, they all sort of get nervous. I had one guy say, "I've done 5 tours of Afghan, and I'd rather do another one than get out the army and go for a job interview," because he was that worked up about it, And I said, "Mate, listen, I left the paras. I've gone for 7 jobs and got 7 jobs. People want people that are willing to like think outside the box, have got good discipline, hard working. You know what I mean? And so don't worry about it. Just calm down. Like, but anyway, I got this job, and this guy is an ex-Royal Marine. He said, "You're just what I'm looking for." He said, "I've got like 10 store guards." He goes, "And I need someone to keep an eye on them all." He said, "Because they're quite lazy." Like he said, "So if you can get on top of them," and there was all different. They sent me on a course out to learn like all different laws about shoplifting and things like that. So I've come into this thing. I've got these 10 store guards, and I just have to basically look after them and make sure it'd kick off quite a lot. Funnily enough, especially around Christmas time, you got people coming in stealing, and when they'd stop them, they'd kick off all the time, and it was quite funny. Like, but I got this job, and there was a lad from Dagenham there, and he said, "This lad Danny ain't happy." I went, "Why?" He went, "Well, you've just come in, you're straight out of the army, and they've given you the job." And he was lined up for the job, and I said, "Well, it ain't my fault. I've just come here." You know what I mean? He said, "Yeah, apparently he's going to have a word with you." And I said, "All right." He said, "Yeah, when we go out back of the shop, that's where we have a word." You know what I mean? I'm thinking, "Oh, he's going to hit me," because in the parents, if someone went, "We're going out back,"
you know exactly what it meant.
yeah, word to chat, yeah. So over the radio, this lad's come up and he's gone, "Yeah, Dave, can I have a word with you out back?" So I've gone out there, and I'm walking there, winding myself up. I've opened the door. He stood there. I've gone whack, hit him on the chin. So this lad's rolled down the floor like, and he went, "I just wanted to talk. I just wanted." So I picked him up, put his hat back on. Went, "I didn't mean it, mate." Like, straight away over the radio, this guy's on the phone, this ex-Royal Marine, and he said, "Dave, it's not the paras, mate. You can't do
Can't be
this.
that.
Like, you got to calm down, mate." Like, and I was like, "Oh, right, okay." He goes, "You're going to fuck up a lot on Civvy Street with this attitude." He'd give me a bit of a talking to, like, but I ended up staying there about, it weren't long, maybe like 9 months, a year. And then I decided I'd train to be a mechanical pipe fitter. So I went down that route and ended up going into refining, starting on a refinery, working on berthing crude oil tankers. And
Oh yeah,
I did that for 4 years. So these huge oil tankers that come up the river, and you go out on the workboats and pick up the wires and all that. It's actually comes in the top 5 most dangerous jobs in the world. If you
really.
get anywhere near the wires, it's game over. Like, you know what I mean? So you spend a lot of time training, and I did that for 4 years, basically, Chris, because it was 4 days on, 4 days off, and in the 4 days off, I could concentrate on building my fishing. You know what I mean? Going out and catching the carp. And weirdly, with my fishing, I never thought, "Oh, I'll go fishing because I want to be paid for it or I want to be sponsored. I went because I just loved it. You know what I mean? I want to do as much of it as possible. And what the other stuff just came with it, because if you've done well, people wanted to know why. You know, so I did this job, and then I ended up working for BP Oil on a refinery on the edge of the River Thames. So going there, and that was a really good job, really well paid. So I ended up staying there for 15 years. But again, it was shift work, so it was ideal for not only just fishing, but my family, you know, seeing my kids growing up. When you're doing shift work, I'm able to drop my kids off at school, you know what I mean? Where a lot of
Yeah.
people, and pick them up. So it fitted in lovely with my sort of lifestyle and things like that. And I think, like, looking back, the paras, when you come out, and I think you've probably found this, Chris, it puts you in really good stead for life. You know what I mean? You're one, I try and tell the lads this when I talk to them, you're one step up when you go for an interview, because look, you've earned a maroon beret. Do you know what I mean? Like, you are already one step up. You've got a different mindset. Everything you're going to do to the best of your ability, and not everyone thinks like that. So, yeah, it did put me in good stead, and I took that even into my fishing. You know what I mean? With the fishing, I've always like gone and fished for the biggest carp I can possibly fish for. I don't care if the lake's, because obviously the lake will be hard depending on how many fish are in it. So if you're fishing a lake that's only got 30 carp and it's a big lake, like one I fished was 5 miles round with 30 odd fish. Hadn't done a carp for about 3 years. And I fished it and ended up catching four. And then people go, bloody hell, we want to know about that. And it just sort of went on like that. It all just developed around my fishing. I worked around my family and work. You know what I mean? I didn't work my family the other way round. You know what I mean? It had to be third in the queue. And then eventually it got to about, I've been sponsored by a few companies for 10 years and being a paid angler as well. And then eventually I wrote a book called Fallen Kings. I'm not plugging it because I don't think you can even buy it anymore. But
No, we'll plug away.
yeah, I wrote that book, Fallen Kings. I've just started my second book. And yeah, weirdly, I went to a carp show to sell the book, and they have these big exhibitions. I'm at one this weekend at Aldershot, funny enough, in Farnborough. And
Right.
this guy come up to me, and a guy called Paul owned a company called Ridge Monkey, and I was already working for probably the biggest company in carp fishing on a part-time basis, as well as doing my job. And he kept saying, like, I want you to come work for me full time. And at this time, the refinery, a lot of it was being shut down because they've moved it all abroad now. Like, you know, English industry has been ruined, isn't it? And eventually, I think I was 42 years old, and I was driving down the road to the refinery one day. All the chimneys were smoking, and you know, I thought, do you know what? Fuck this! I'm going to go for it. I've got loads of work on fishing wise, so much so that when I'm off, all I'm doing is working in fishing. So I literally went in and handed my notice in, like, much to my missus' disgust. So I got home that night, said, I've handed my notice in. And at work, they were going, are you sure? And I said, yeah, I'm done. I just decided at 42 years old that it was time to, you know what I mean? I've just got to, and I remember one of my friends, Jeff, saying to me, are you fucking mental? He said, you've got a mortgage, missus, your kids. He went, you ain't 20 years old, you can't take this risk. And I said, I'm not being selfish. I said, I'm just fucking going for it. So I did. I took the risk to become a professional angler, or as they call them, angling consultants. And I've never looked back, to be honest. I've joined Ridge Monkey, which are a brilliant company to work for. And I've gone all over the world with them, all over Europe, caught some of the biggest carp in the world, up to over £100. And yeah, like, I'm still loving it now, mate. You know, it's like life is good.
Yeah, no, fair play. And look, sometimes you just got to, if you can combine something that you're really passionate about and something you love into something that becomes financially viable, then it's not like working at all, is it? You know, you're
No,
earning money for
exactly.
doing something you're passionate about. So no, I get that, mate. And like I say, hats off to literally stepping away from security in a job and chasing your dreams. I think it's good sometimes to put yourself, I talk about this a lot, about putting yourself out of comfort zones and kind of taking a chance. If you never take that chance, you'll never know. And you might have still been working at the refinery and still doing it on a part-time basis, but you took a gamble and it's clearly paid off. So
Yeah.
again, you know, fair play to you. I cannot fault you for that, mate. So, well, I've got a few questions. Well, there's some bits of information because that is obviously the big point of why we wanted to come on. We'll talk about the fishing. So, I've got some information about it. Obviously, you've been sort of 39 years fishing. So you've won a couple of awards in the kind of angling kind of stuff, haven't you?
Yeah. I've won Carp Angler of the Year on 2 occasions, which is where, if you have a good season, basically everyone votes and, you get voted. So I won it in 2016 for mainline. And then in 2022, I also won Carp Angler of the Year again, this time for the Angling Times, which is, it's not why I go, but sometimes it is nice to, have a well done.
Well, you get a bit of
So,
recognition for what you do.
yeah,
Something again, you're passionate, and you're obviously very, very good at what you do. And I think I was saying before, I said to you off air. So my future father-in-law, my fiance's stepdad, Richard Skidmore, that
yeah,
you've heard of, he's a big. I mean, he's been fishing 40 plus, sort of. I think even 50 plus years now. I mean,
yeah.
he's sort of late 60s, and he talks about some. And you can see when he talks about it how passionate he is about, which I get, I understand, but for someone like me that's not into fishing, I don't fully understand. But
And
he talks
it's
about red mire, he talks about certain fishing dates. So
yeah.
what's your kind of, does every angler have a favourite place to fish, one that sticks out in
Yes,
your mind?
with me, I saw because I spent a lot of time in Europe in the last few years. I mean, I grew up fishing different lakes, some really famous lakes in England, but probably my favourite place in the last few years has been the French Alps because you go right up into the mountains. In the summer, it's sort of 27 to 30 degrees. You're fishing these beautiful gin clear lakes with snow-capped mountains all the way around you, catching these massive carp. I've done a couple of films. I do a series for Ridge Monkey on YouTube called A Tale of Carp, and that follows me on my fishing, going to these more wild venues because there's a lot of venues where you go there. There's food laid on and all that, and I do fish them venues, but I much prefer the wild stuff where you go there, you don't really know. There's big carp there, you don't know how big, and it's a lot more wild. You have to sort of just fend for yourself, and I prefer that type of fishing. Getting in the van, driving across Europe with a few targets in mind, and getting there, not even knowing what you're going to expect when you turn up. And yeah, I do a series called The Tale of Carp, which is all about that.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I'll have to check that out. And for the viewers and followers as well, yeah, go check that out. Especially those that are angling minded as well. Yeah, be interested to have a look at that. I'll have a
I
quick
have
look at it.
actually met your father-in-law as well, mate. Probably when I was about 16 years old at a lake called Raysbury, where he did catch, I don't know if it's still his biggest fish, a fish called Mary, which was a well-known carp. And yeah, he's a very well-respected angler back then and still now.
Yeah, he still does a bit now. He still goes out and he fishes quite a bit up at Clumber, near Sherwood Forest. That's not too far from where I live, so he kind of fishes there and various other places. But yeah, he loves it still, and he goes out, sits there, takes the dog, and everything else. I think he's and I'm sure he won't mind me saying this. He's a bit of a fair weather fisherman now. I think
Yeah,
he'll take a look out the window at 5:30 in the morning and think, yeah, might give it a miss. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I don't blame him if he's been fishing that long.
yeah. I'm still in a stage where I'm still stupid enough to sit out in the cold. Like,
And young enough, I suspect. You know, as you
yeah,
get older, though, you kind of you do sort of you feel it. But how old are you, Dave?
I'm 51, and
Still a spring
yeah.
chicken, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I still keep super fit. Like, no, I train 4 times a week. I've since leaving the Paras, I've never let my fitness drop. Done few marathons, things like that. Recently, I've been doing high rocks competitions and things.
Really?
Yeah, so I've kept myself fit all the time. Like,
Yeah, them high rocks competitions. I mean, I'm 45 this year, but I've got, and it's not an excuse. I mean, I did CrossFit a while, mid 2000, 2005. I
yeah,
boxed quite recently for the last time last April, but I've got that many injuries now. I can't run anymore, and I kind of struggle a bit with certain
yeah,
things. So I walk a lot. I do a lot of walking and a lot
yeah,
of lifting weights and the odd bit of boxing, but to do the high rocks, mate, at 51, hats off to you because
yeah.
they're quite punishing on the body, aren't they?
Oh, they are. Yeah, I did it. When was it? About last September. it was bloody hard. You know what I mean? I've done another one since because my daughter's a PT, and I did this high rocks, and I thought I've done one now. I'm going to leave it, and my daughter went, "Do you fancy doing one in pairs, Dad?" And I thought, well, my daughter's 22, fit as a fiddle, you know. So I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll do it," you know. And my son Max, he does triathlons, so both of them really into fitness. And like we was talking earlier about education, well, I brought my children up. My son boxed, had 30 amateur fights. My daughter was a sprinter, sprinted for Essex, London. And I think that sport has taught them that, you know, in life, if you don't work hard, you get nothing. If you work hard, you win. And that's what happens in sport. The harder you work, the better you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and that there is something you can take away from everything like that, and put into kind of everyday life, and the processes that you go through as an adult. You know, and sport being a good one, perfectly. You know, analogy there. If you don't put in the effort or you don't try hard enough, you won't win and you won't go nowhere. So
Of
it's
course.
quite
Yeah.
simple, really, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Effort,
yeah.
effort required. So I've got to ask you, from a non-fisherman, that they're easy questions to ask. Biggest fish you've caught?
Yeah, my biggest mirror carp is 101 pound from Hungary. I did catch the biggest common carp in the world in 2022, which at that time was 97 pound. It's over
Whoa.
100 now, but in England I've had them to 56 pound. Yeah, so yeah, I've caught a lot of big carp, but yeah, I'm more into you know, I might not necessarily go and fish for the biggest carp. I've caught much bigger carp than I'll go and fish for. Sometimes it's about the look and how old they are and their history and things like that. It's all a bit train spottery, but it's yeah, you know, it's sort of what we do, you know.
Yeah, no, fair play. And like I say, that's it. You go after a particular fish. You know, I get it. I fully understand it. Even though, like I say, it's not something I'm into. I understand why you do and the fundamentals behind it. Because again, like we say, you can apply them
Yeah,
to different things, and that's kind of with all hobbies, isn't it? You have a
yeah,
way that
definitely.
you do
Yeah,
things. Um, So yeah, I suppose moving on, what have you got coming up? Kind of obviously you've been doing it kind of full time now, and you kind of work for Ridge Monkey, and you
yeah.
kind of you do it as a full time thing. What have you got coming up this year that you can tell us about, Dave?
Basically, at the end of March, I'm off to Romania, filming a lake out in Romania, and there ain't been a lot done there in the last few years. You know what I mean? Like, in the last 10 years. Then I'm in Spain, France, and Holland. So yeah, a bit all over the place this year. I tend to do about 5 to 6 weeks a year in Europe fishing and you know, filming, and then I've started my own YouTube channel, which is Carpodian, and there's a few films on that at the moment. And this year I'm going to really be working hard to sort of build that YouTube channel up, and I'm going to include a few bits in that like that ain't all fishing. So I'm going to attempt to do the fan dance with £35 just for the sake of doing it for the video, and see if my calves will hold up to it, you know.
You should have
So
it at the Paras 10, mate, as well if you've not done that.
do you know, I've actually been looking at that. I do fancy a go
I did
because
it. I did it.
Colchester's not far.
Yeah, well, there's the Colchester one. I went up and did the P Company 10 miler one in Catterick,
I
uh,
bet it's hard.
2000 and oof, 2012, I think, something like that. So I'd have been 32, and I actually came
Yeah,
round. I've been out the army then maybe 10 years, 8 years, and
yeah.
I came round in an hour 32 with a 35 pound burger. The
Bloody
same,
hell, that's good, mate.
the OCP company, the current OCP company, just nipped me at the line. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I got you." And I was like, "Well, you should have done. I've been out 8 years. What's your excuse?"
Yeah, yeah.
But
It's
no,
good.
the old Paris 10 meet is a good day out. Red threads usually jump in and stuff like that. So that'd be a good one. If you
Right.
document it, I'll definitely watch that. And it'd be
Yeah,
good to
okay.
see. I think obviously the aim is to kind of do it in 1 hour 50 if you can,
Yeah,
which is a tall order as you get older. I mean, I don't know
it
whether
is.
I could, with a bit of training, I think I could probably come round in 1 hour 50, I think. But
Yeah,
who knows? Who
yeah.
knows?
It's the training, isn't it? And it's whether, like you say, that whether the injuries hold
It's,
up now, isn't it?
it's the calves. Do you suffer
Yeah.
with your calves as well? I'm terrible
Badly.
for pulled calves.
I tear them all the time, like, yeah.
Me too, mate. Me too. I
Yeah.
can't run, but I'm 105 kilos. So when I try and run, everything goes through the calf. So, but
Yeah.
it's not good, mate. It's not good.
No. No.
No, happy days, mate. Well, look, it's been an absolute pleasure, Dave. Thank you very much. Just for everyone that's watching and viewing this podcast, I'll put a load of details in the description for your Instagram account, for your YouTube account, so people can give you a follow and obviously catch up with the YouTube videos and stuff like that. But for now, Dave, I'll have a chat with you in a minute off air. But it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris. Take care, mate.
No dramas, mate. You take care.
Hit the ground, no sound but the wind jumped out the sky where the real work begins. Iraq heat, cold steel on the front line, security tight, walking edge of a landmine. Somali seas, deck slick with the salt, eyes sharp, never blink, never halt. Surveillance in the mist, eyes on the prize. UK streets to foreign skies, from fire calls to bare knuckle rings, still fighting demons that memory brings. Oh, Kevin, tune in now, feel the truth get louder. This is the old paratrooper, no powder, no script, no mask, no lies, just facts. Mental health raw in boots or slacks, ADHD to the PTS pain. We're breaking silence, not playing games. Old paratrooper podcast, stay locked in. Stories from the edge where the healing begins. Not a saint, just a voice for the ones who never had a fucking choice. From the wire to the ward, from smoke to the dark, every scar on the soul is a battle mark. Memories haunting, can't shake the past, but together we fight, we stand steady.